Welcome to 5am Chats, the brand new content series where I will be chatting with a different mum each week, answering your questions around a different motherhood subject. To kick things off, I had a lovely conversation with Jessica Fox around the first year of motherhood. Her little boy has just turned 1, so it was the perfect time to catch up around what's been going on in the last year. We spoke around weaning, of sleep, and all the different things that happen throughout the newborn stage and up to the first milestone of turning 1. So grab yourself a cup of tea and let's get into it. Hello and welcome to the very first episode of 5am Chats, and today I am joined by the lovely Jessica Fox. So hi Jessica.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. And it's so lovely to speak to you because we have been chatting for a while over Instagram, but we've never actually spoken in real life before. So this is a real treat.
Face to face. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, exactly. And how's River? How's life? How's everything?
So we are a little bit in the eye of the storm at the moment. So he's just turned 1. So he's just had his 1 year vaccinations, which was, I think, the most harrowing experience I've ever had, because he's a lot more alert now than he was when he had his newborn ones. And we've had, that's meant his sleep's then taken a few steps back, and we've had hand, foot and mouth again. He's fighting 2 naps. He wants to go down to 1, but I'm not ready for that. So there's a lot going on in the mix at the moment.
Lots of change and disruption. Yeah.
But with that is coming this new energy from him. He's starting to say more words, he's understanding more, he's laughing more, and he's more present in the room. So we use it, there's 2 sides to every coin, and with the hard bits you get some exciting stuff.
Yeah, I think the age between 1 and 2, there's so many lovely moments that start bringing out their personalities more, and there's so much change, isn't there? Is he walking yet?
He's not walking. He is cruising at lightning speed.
Right, yeah. So that will be the next thing.
Even faster. So, yeah, at the moment, I think he thinks, why would I bother to walk when I can crawl and get there much quicker?
Yeah, he'll get there very soon, it sounds like. And then it's a whole other world of challenges with him getting into every cupboard and things like that. The way that we are setting up this kind of content series is, as you know, we asked our community to send in some questions around a different subject each week. And this week we are talking about the first year of motherhood, as you are just freshly out of that first year. So advice for new mums who are in the thick of the newborn stage, or who are perhaps pregnant at the moment and want to know what to expect. So we've got some lovely questions through, and I thought we'll just work our way through them and try and help some other mums who are perhaps struggling a little bit or have any questions. So the first one I think we'll go straight in with is around sleep, which obviously for my brand is very relevant. Did you ever have your baby in your bed for ease so you could sleep overnight?
Now, I'm going to say right now, I was desperate to co-sleep. I really wanted to do it. I know lots of people have strong feelings around sleep and around co-sleeping, but I did my research. I knew that if you could do it safely, it was a wonderful way to bond, to protect your breastfeeding journey, to get rest for both of you. And so it was something that both me and my husband talked about and we were up for. And he didn't want to do it. He was too excited. It was almost like he was like, I've got both my people. Oh my goodness, it's too much going on. So we actually ended up having to put him in the next to me. But I was desperate for it. We actually invested, and this is my top thing that I got as a pregnant lady, as one of those mad pregnancy purchases. I bought a really big lazy armchair that reclines flat.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And it was a luxury, but it is a luxury that I'm glad I invested in, because I sometimes spend 6, 7, 8 hours in that chair.
Yeah.
And it's a comfy place to be. So although we never got to co-sleep, and that might change as he gets older, he might think, oh yeah, actually I do want that comfort of being between mummy and daddy. But the chair was sort of our version of co-sleeping.
I'm very jealous of that chair because I went for just like a little pretty pink kind of it was quite hard chair that went, like, it was quite aesthetic. It went in their room nicely, and the amount of hours I spent on that uncomfortable chair overnight, it was torture, and I just wish that I could lay down, and I couldn't, and it was horrible. So that is a very good tip, to get a really comfy recliner chair.
Comfy chair, yes, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I didn't actually co-sleep either in the end. I did the next to me thing. I had the crib next to me, but I think I was just too scared. And I had that fear. I used to wake up in the night after I'd fed the baby and like panic that she was still on me. And I'd literally wake up in a kind of cold sweat, being like, oh my God, where is she? Where is she? She's gone. But she'd been laying there next to me, sleeping happily for a while. And it's just, that terrified me too much. So I just, for me, it was just the fear. I felt much safer with her next to me, rather than in my bed myself. So
I think as well, like the whole, safe sleep guidelines, and the Lullaby Trust do an amazing job for sort of helping protect and advise you against the risk of SIDS. But in some ways it can go too far the other way.
Yeah, I think the fear mongering.
And you can stop using your sort of common sense or your mum instinct, which is something I'm really trying to lean into and trust, and trust that you and your baby kind of know what you're doing. And that's something that I think people really worry about as well when it comes to co-sleeping.
Yeah, and worrying if they're too hot or too cold and all of these things.
The too cold thing is something that I still can't let go. We've got one of those temperature eggs, and I got a bit obsessed with it. If it drops below 18, then he needs to be in this higher tog. And, but if he's in the higher tog, then he can't have the vest on and with his sleep suit. So I used to undress him in the middle of the night, being like, no, the egg says, so I've got to change what he's in now. And I've got, like a mad woman, because you do worry so much about it all. But I was that mum. That as soon as the egg changed degrees, I was like, must change baby. And I think one of the beauties of once you're out of that newborn phase is you start to trust your baby and trust yourself a bit more. But those newborn days are definitely a learning curve.
Yeah, full of worry, left, right and centre, isn't it? So moving on to still on the subject of sleep, does River sleep through the night?
I think that's such a funny question that people ask. Like, that's the goal.
Yeah.
And I was being so blessed, and I hate that word, that with my sort of Instagram following and the community that I've created since I've become a parent, is a lot of experts and people that really know what they're doing have like reached out to me and offered their help and their services and their information. And I'm also the kind of person that loves research. I love learning. I love finding out. And an amazing lady called Nicola Radcliffe, she gave me her Baby to Sleep course. And that is all about the science behind sleep. And so I learnt how babies sleep, why they don't sleep, all those things. And although it wasn't then a magic guideline to get River to sleep, it gave me all this understanding of why he wasn't sleeping. And that, in a lot of ways, has been the most precious piece of knowledge, because if I understand why something's happening, I can empathise better with it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when babies aren't sleeping, they're tired, you don't have the appropriate reactions when you're tired, because you can't, you're running on fumes. But once you start to understand why it's happening, I found it a lot easier to deal with. So for me, that gift of learning how sleep works has been invaluable. But to answer the question, sometimes he does. I think he slept through a handful of times. And most of the time, no, he doesn't. He wakes up because at 1, he's teething. He's going through a developmental leap. He's had a bad day. He's a bit hungry. There's always a reason. And it's my job as his mummy to support him through that. Which is the path we've chosen to take, is we support his sleep and try and settle him down. But yeah, sometimes he does. 99.9% of the time, no, he doesn't.
Yeah, it's just not a straight process, is it? It's not like, at this age they're going to sleep through the night and then that's it forever. They're going to always sleep through the night and you're going to get, the 12 hours perfect sleep out of them. It just doesn't happen. It's just, even now for me, my 3-year-old is up. I honestly don't think we've had a full week where she has never woken up. Like, even now she's going to be 4 in April, at the end of April. Wow. And yeah, we don't go a whole week with uninterrupted sleep. It just doesn't happen. It's just that's what children are like, isn't it?
But even adults, aren't they?
Yeah.
I don't sleep that well, so I'm used to having a wake up or two. It's just I probably don't always remember them the next day.
Yeah.
And I think applying that same sort of understanding that we do to adults to children, I think is really important. But the sleep thing it's hard. It's really hard. Like, I totally sympathise. I look at you. Your baby's 4 and you're still not getting that like promised land of sleep. That's hard. That's really hard going, and I think people should appreciate that.
Yeah, it's definitely been one of the biggest challenges for us from the start. But I think, everyone goes through it, don't they? So, yeah. And
if there was a magic formula, if it was like you do A and B and then see what happened, we'd all have sleeping children.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. Right. So moving on from sleep, how, if we go right back to the beginning, how long did it take you to feel like yourself after you gave birth?
I'm not sure. I do, if I'm perfectly honest. So River just turned, it's 13 months now. And the shift in who I am as a person, I think, is huge. And I doubt that will ever go back. I think returning to work makes you feel a bit like your old self in some respects, because there's that old part of you. But I've said from the get-go of going back to work, it's like someone took out my brain and washed it and changed size and put it back in, and were like, can you go be who you used to be? But all my priorities have changed. He is the focus of all my decisions and everything that I'm doing. So no, I'm not my old self. I say I'm a new version of myself, and hopefully that person is a bit more empathetic and a bit kinder and hopefully has more patience.
Yes, that is a big one, isn't it? You have to have a lot of patience. And I think I'm the same, really. I think back to what I was like before I had children. And I think, well, first of all, I have no idea what I did at the weekend. I just can't remember how I spent my time. But I don't think I would even want to go back to being that person again. I think I'm a much better person now. I've come out of, difficult times and a lot of change, and it's like you say, a new version of me, and I think it's for the better. So I don't think but I do get where you're coming from with going back to work, because I also felt like, you just get that time where you're not constantly thinking about the routine or what they need, and sort of just dropping everything and doing what they need from you. That you can take your time to just do you, can't you? Which is such a nice feeling. Yeah, it always feels like a break, like a nice break going to work. I'm with you there. Right, so the next question is all about baby-led weaning, because you have put a few posts around how you feed River and your baby-led weaning journey on Instagram. So the question is, I love your posts on baby-led weaning and would love recommendations on recipes and products for when my wee one is older and baby-led weaning.
I think weaning, again, is like a journey, and people have lots of feelings about, should you start with purees? Should you go straight with baby-led weaning? Could you do a mixture of the two? And the answer is yes, you can do all the things. I was really lucky that I didn't have a great deal of fear around weaning, and I know that a lot of people get really nervous about choking, and I didn't. I wasn't worried about that for whatever reason. I was worried about everything else, but for some reason, weaning I felt quite confident with. And shortly before we started, I actually did like a day course with a company called Selena Suppers, and they do a weaning workshop, and they talk you all through it. And then at the end, you can give your baby, if you're comfortable, some finger food and see what they make of it. And that was really good, because she talked us through the difference between gagging and choking, because loads of mums mistake, and parents and dads and caregivers mistake gagging for choking. And that can be quite scary if you see your baby, sort of struggling with something, to not jump in. And doing that course, it gave me a bit of confidence to sit back and sit on my hands and allow River to explore with food. which is what we did. So, you know, every day I picked a vegetable. I think Joe Wicks had like a little list, and I was like, well, today we'll do asparagus, tomorrow we'll do spinach. And it was actually just really super fun. I loved watching him put things in his mouth and taste it, and the faces he would make. And I think that spurred me on even more. And then I was able to use all the resources. I got some books out of the library, I downloaded some apps, and then I just started to make things that I thought I would like the taste of, and we would sit and eat together, and that's how we've done it ever since. There's been huge ups and downs when he's ill or he's not hungry, or one day he really likes porridge and the next day it's been thrown everywhere. And it's learning to ride the wave of that and have the patience to deal with that. I've recently introduced like an all done bowl. So that sits on the table on his high chair, and rather than flinging food, I sort of try and encourage him to put his food in the all done bowl.
That's very clever.
And that's not my tip, that is somebody else's. And that's working really well for us. But I've tried to put my joy of cooking and eating and pass that on to River, because I think all of us that grew up in the 90s and noughties, we have slightly disordered eating from, you know, parents, social media, the press. You know, I have a complicated relationship with food, and I really don't want him to have that. I want him to love food and enjoy it, and know that all food is good no matter what it is.
Yeah, I think that really shows when you make the effort to make those home cooked meals and you're eating the same thing, and you kind of just relax a little bit around it instead of kind of worrying if they're, you know, getting the right nutrition. It's just about kind of making meal times a family occasion, isn't it? And making it enjoyable for everybody. I think if you're enjoying it and you're relaxed, then that's going to rub off on him, isn't it? He'll definitely feel if you're anxious and worried about anything to do with food. They
pick up so much more than we realise, don't they? And so with, as you say, like enjoying that experience, and they model from you as well. So if they're seeing you putting food in your mouth and enjoying it, they kind of do the same thing. And I also think it's giving yourself a bit of grace. Like, we had beans on toast tonight. I didn't have time for anything else. I didn't have the energy for anything else. He loves beans. He loves toast. Beans on toast is for everybody.
Yeah, full tummy. Everyone's happy. It doesn't have to be a gourmet meal every night.
I think it's an impossible standard. Sometimes I see it on Instagram or wherever, and I think, I would love to be making chia seed energy balls, but it's 11:30 at night and I'm tired.
Yeah, or these amazing vegetable pinwheels or something like that. You think, you see so many nice recipes. I save so many recipes on TikTok and Instagram. I'm like, I'll make that, and then I just never do. It's just the standard sausage and mash or whatever. Yeah.
And then I get mum guilt, and then I'm chopping or grating a courgette at 10 p.m. at night because I want him to have a courgette muffin the next day, which inevitably will go on the floor, but at least I tried.
Yeah. There's a really good cookbook. I don't know if you've discovered it. It's called What Mummy Makes.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that one. I use that a lot.
She's got a couple now. I really like, she's just released a new one, and it's like family food on a budget.
Oh, okay.
It's really good. That one's really good. And I think she's got like a super fast suppers or something, and I like that.
The pancake recipe's a winner in there. I think it's just like bananas and oats and an egg. But on a weekend, I sometimes say to the girls, "Oh, should we have pancakes?" And they get really excited, and then they don't realise it's actually really healthy.
Very good. We like the Hulk's mac and cheese.
Yes,
you've had that one.
That's good. And the homemade flatbreads, we do those all the time. And the little first curry, there's some good recipes in there.
Yeah,
solid recipes.
Yes.
So right, the next question is probably one for both of us. Actually, does it actually get easier as they get older?
Well, I think you're probably better placed to say whether it does. Further along. But I'd say like the newborn phase was really hard. I found it really, really hard. Poor River had a lot of issues with tongue tie, which then was causing issues with tension in his body, and that was then having a knock-on effect for like digestion, and it was all this sort of vicious circle that took 6-7 months for us to really figure out and get to the bottom of that. And so that was a pretty long experience. I couldn't leave the house with him for quite a long period of time unless he was asleep, because he was just screaming. He was a pretty unsettled, unhappy little man, and that was horrible. It was really hard to see and hard to cope with, and advice was he'll grow out of it, and that wasn't quite good enough for me. And so I did again do lots of research and reached out to the community, and have had huge amounts of help and resources that I'm always happy to pass on. The tongue time specialist, breastfeeding specialists, osteopath changed my life, and now we're working with a nutritionist. So we've been on a real journey when it comes to our like newborn life, and you know, you're in the trenches and it is daunting and you've never done it before. So for me, now that we're at 1, I'm like, this is easy street. But I know that each stage comes with new challenges. Like our newborn, our NCT group, we call it a season. So we say it's just a season. It's just a season when you're going through a hard patch. But I think it's always hard. It just changes.
Yeah, exactly. It's different challenges as they get older. It's, I don't think, I mean, the newborn phase is obviously very difficult for so many reasons. And we had the same as you with my firstborn. She was just crying all the time, so uncomfortable, colic, reflux. It was just, it was so difficult, and no sleep. It was, you know, there was some really dark days, and that was really, really tough. But then, you kind of move out of that, and then something else happens, and then you move on to like teething and, you know, all of those issues that come with that. And it's just, you've got to just take the good with the challenges as well, haven't you? Like, there's always lovely moments as well as more difficult moments at every stage. So yeah, I think it does get easier. On the whole, it does get easier when they get older. When you can communicate with them and they understand you, that's a whole other ball game then. I mean, you get arguing and talking back. We're at the stage now where it's just like, nobody listens to me. I'm just talking to a brick wall. But it is easier on a whole, and you've got more independence as well, you know, when they start to do more things for themselves, and you're not working your life around nap schedules and feeding schedules. You can be a bit more relaxed in that sense. It's obviously a lot easier then. So yeah, it's always challenges, but on the whole it does get easier.
Do you find that because, you know, of the age of where your little ones are now, because you've been through all those cycles of changes and challenges and things that change, that it's easier to cope with because you've done so many now? Does that make sense?
Yeah. You just get kind of used to it, don't you? You get in the flow of things. And I mean, the second time was just so much easier than the first time because you've been there before, you know what you're doing, and it just comes a bit more naturally. And you, like you were saying, you don't stress about things so much. You kind of, there's a bit more, you're a bit more relaxed. But you know, even things like my almost 4-year-old now, which I can't believe, she's not yet potty trained overnight. She's still in nappies, and she still wakes up with a very, you know, wet nappy every morning. Whereas my first daughter, day and night from day one, super easy, trained, completely dry overnight at the age of like 2.5, and it was done. No more nappies. Whereas, you know, we're nearly at 4 now, and she's still in nappies overnight. But I'm not stressing about it. I'm not worried about it. I don't feel like she's, you know, there's any way that I can really train that. Subconscious that she's still, you know, weeing overnight. And I feel just a bit more like, okay, let's just go with her when she's ready. Obviously it will happen, but until then, fine. You know, if she starts school and she's still wearing nappies overnight, then so be it. I don't really want to kind of worry too much about that at this point. So yeah, I think it's just, you know, just try and trust your instincts.
And trust your child as well. I think that's something I'm really trying to do. And one of my other things that I always say is like, well, how many 20-year-olds do you know that need a nappy overnight? Or, you know, how many 20-year-olds do you know that can't roll over? How many 20, you know? And so that's sort of the try and logic I try and put to things. Is like, we all get there. We get there on our own time scales.
Exactly. You can't just follow a book and say, well, at this age they need to be doing this, because every child is different.
And we'd drive ourselves mad. I know that I was like, I think you can't help but compare yourself or your baby to other people. It's, it's part of us, isn't it? And I'd be like, oh, River's not over yet, but such and such and such and such is. And then I don't know if you know the Bluey episode, The Baby Race.
Yes, yeah. We love Bluey.
Yeah, and I was like, bawling my eyes out. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna relax. And then literally the day later, we rolled over, and I was like, oh well, there we go.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So our very last question. I mean, we've probably sort of talked about this already, but what has been the hardest stage for you so far? I think I know what you're going to say. And then let's finish on a positive and say what's been the best so far. So we'll talk about the hardest part, but then also what have you enjoyed the most so far?
So for me, definitely, as I was saying earlier, like the newborn phase was a real toughie for lots of reasons. It's, is poor tongue tie. We had colic, digestive issues, being a really uncomfortable baby, feeling very isolated in the newborn phase. I found very hard. We got cried out of every baby group apart from baby massage, and that was because it was with my NCT ladies, and they were all so supportive and knew me and knew River. So that was sort of my one safe space that I could go on a Tuesday morning. But other than that, I found the newborn phase really, really hard. But it's quite short-lived. Like when I look back on it now,
in hindsight,
it was really hard. With hindsight, it was hard, but it was a short part. And if we were lucky enough to have another one day, I would have all those specialists that I have met on speed dial, and I would know what to recognise. So, if we were in that situation again, I hope I'd be able to deal with it differently. And my favourite part is probably right now, it's watching that spark of intelligence and personality and wonder at the world coming alive out of him. And I love seeing the world through his eyes and getting to show him things. Like we took him to a petting farm a couple of weeks ago, and you could feed the goats and sheep and stuff, and he just was like, everything, and watching him be like, that's a real pig, that's not mummy at home making a pig noise, that's a real one, was just incredible. And how joyous to be a baby discovering all that for the first time, and I get to be part of it, and I love it.
I love that as well. It is amazing when they discover new things, and all the firsts are so magical, aren't they? I remember when my first daughter was really, really little, she just loved being outside and staring at trees, and I was thinking, wow, you're just amazed at trees. Like, I need to look at trees more. They are beautiful. Like,
yes.
You sort of start to appreciate things a bit more, don't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't wait till he can jump in a puddle.
Oh,
that sort of, I know.
Just hope he's wearing wellies at the time, because if it's in trainers,
puddle suit, at the ready. But that sort of wonder of nature, and as you say, like going outside and being amazed by trees, they are amazing. The way the light goes through the leaves, and looking at them for that special way that they see things, I think is so amazing. I love it. I love being a mummy.
Yeah, it is the best. Right, well, thank you very much. We've come to the end of our questions. So thanks so much for joining me on my very first episode of 5am Chats. And we'll speak again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
How lovely was Jessica? It was so nice to catch up and finally chat to her in person and talk all around what's been going on in her first year. I think I loved her honesty around the challenges that she faced, particularly in the newborn stage. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching it too, and look out for the next episode next week.